A lot of my friends play League of Legends, so that's how I got into it. And then they were a bit better than me, so I had to compete to be better. And then I got into a team with one of my friends, and then it's like kept on going. And I started playing tournaments as well, and it just kind of gave me a high in a way. Like I started on a for fun mode, and then the more I played the game, the more I got into this competitive mindset.
Aaron does find himself a stun. Soft holds his life at the moment. Look at the damage from Jack Spectre though.
I think the friend side of it is a really big reason as well, because I really like playing in a team, and then you have this brotherhood atmosphere. You play every night, you always have someone to talk to. Like you met the same people and you started to make friends.
And there's a double kill picked up on Graves. Dusty.
We were just all talking about Fiddle. Don't worry, Fiddle. It was all nice things we were talking about off camera. Goldborg is a big fan. I'll just put it that way. Now let's get into the next game, everybody. Let's talk about Godsent versus Nordavind. And obviously, these are two teams that have had some ups and downs throughout the league. Godsent came on with an explosive start. We were thinking they were going to be the next big thing, playing through topside, and then they seem to have slightly come undone over the last couple of games. And Nordavind, they're a team that has started off pretty poorly, but have gone from strength to strength since then, and are definitely looking like a team that's contesting for one of those top 4, top 3 spots.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying they're starting out poorly, but they had one loss. That's literally it. Like, they're 3-1. They're doing properly well. They're tied for the first place in the group right now. And Godsent is just like in that top 6 or top 5 bottom, where the middle of the pack are just fighting that we've been talking about. So they are 2-2, and they really desperately need wins now when they're going into it. Now, if we talk about Nordavind, to me, this team has been really good at preparing their playstyle. They've been the one that adapted the fastest in terms of synergy, whereas Godsent is up and down for me every now and then. We know they like to play through champion, whereas Nordavind, they like to play through bottom lane. So it's going to be interesting to see how this will pan out when these two types of team meets.
And I'm a little bit concerned for Godsent, because I think of all the teams, this is a good opportunity for them to get an upset, because I think Mummus has been underperforming for Nordavind. And I also think Nordavind's playstyle isn't super hyper aggressive. They tend to slow play it. They tend to play very objective focused. And I think it gives an opportunity for Champion really to take over a game if they set him up properly. But unfortunately, we've seen him really targeted by bans. We're seeing teams first rotation ban Fiora Camille, and he just hasn't had anything that's matched up. He picked the Wukong, he struggled in lane, and then they weren't able to find the team fighting later because Godsent just haven't really excelled at that. So I think there's two options here. Either you look to play around your other lanes and proper purity carry, or if you're going to play around Champion in the top lane, you need him on something that can be a relevant split pusher. And obviously, you get your Fiora and Camille banned away, so you need to have something else.
And just to follow up on that, I don't necessarily mind if he goes back to something like the Wukong. I know that you just talked about how Oxa didn't look as strong as it could, so maybe you look for the 1-4, the 1-3-1 style there. But I feel like if you are going to run into team fights, which majority of these teams are, give him something that can team fight really effectively, like the Wukong, like the Renekton, one of these big bruiser champions, because he's not going to get his Camille and his Fiora. And then just to echo the sentiment, it does feel like this is a very split map, top side here for Godsent, bot side here for Nordavind. But the big difference is in these mid laners, and Aaron is a much stronger mid lane for Nordavind versus Mikmer, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's not only the mid lane, I also think it goes down to the team play. I think Godsent have been showcasing they're actually pretty good at playing that early game. I feel like they've been showing us some surprising gameplay coming into the early game. They know they have a win condition to play for it there. It's when you get to the mid game and to the late game that they start to seem struggling. The TP timers have been off. We see them uncoordinated in team fight. They lack synergy. They seem tunnel vision every now and then. And that, to me, needs to change, because they actually have a good footing in the beginning. They just need to keep that balance going into the mid to late game.
Yeah, and we see a lot of the momentum just fade away. And I think the critical things are, because the vision setup tends to be okay, but the reset timers, looking over their games, were really poor. There was awkward resets coming 20 seconds before an objective, or there was one moment where Mikmer reset just to TP back in with 2 extra daggers and a Azir. It feels like the individual talent is there, maybe not to challenge the top teams, but definitely to put up a good performance. But it's just the coordination is missing a little bit. They do have good moments. Like there was one where they decided not to match a Herald swap, and they countered it on the other side of the map. There's definitely good basics, but it's just rounding things out in the mid game to be a full team who can challenge these top rosters.
Yeah, and if you take a look at the opposite side, like we're looking at Nordavind, their early game, they're quite stable. They don't really do much. They're not too proactive. If one guy is proactive, I think it's Bebop Bully. He's out on the map. We've seen him just roll up for top scuttle like 3 minutes into the game. So he's pretty proactive. But going into it, I would describe Nordavind as a team that got the mid lane and late game together. They look extremely textbook to me in that sense that if there was a written book about how you would fight for objectives, how you would set it up, and in which order you'd have to do it. Nordavind is playing that way in the mid and late game, so they are extremely deadly to play against because they're so calm and collected, and you need to make something happen against them.
Frankly, if I'm going to pick kind of the favorite for here, I still think that it's Nordavind, just because the carries are just so strong. And so, like, while I really love this discussion about, you know, strategy and what Godsent can do and who they need to play through and kind of what their win conditions would be with that top lane, at the end of the day, I'm like, unfortunately, it just feels like such a skill mismatch and kind of these key roles. I don't really see them having a chance here.
Yeah, I think actually something that we've always talked about with Nordavind specifically is how Ericsson is one of the most consistent mid laners in the league. Like we talked about this interview, we've talked about it with him over and over again. He just seems like a mid lane that makes very little mistake and doesn't really give away much. And that often can really benefit the, like you said, that key word that we always talk about, the consistency of this team. Guys, we're going to go to a quick break. When we're back, picks and bans will be on the way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're into draft here for Godsent and Nordavind. Godsent on blue side, Nordavind on red. And we will see where these bands go. Ezreal immediately taken off the table. No surprises with Chris Berg being the enemy AD carry. Both a great pick for him and also obviously a great pick in the meta right now as well.
And I want to see if we follow the same trajectory teams have started having up against Godsent, where it's the Fiora and the Camille ban. And then the big thing for me is looking towards champion. Is he going to default back to the Wukong? Is he going to try and be a more for team fighting presence? Is he going to go for the Jace, or does he have something else to offer here?
To me, that's just so funny, right? Because you also know that sometimes in communication, when you're preparing for that draft, you're just like, we shouldn't have to ban Fiora and Camille when playing a competitive game. But, you know, sometimes you just need to give that respect away. Question is, when Nordavind is playing that red side, I don't think you have to do that. I think you need to take away the priority targets. We have seen what happens if you, for example, that Varus gets let through for Godsent. Hoy's had an excellent game on that champion too. So I like the approach from Nordavind. I like they're not falling into that let's just ban champion hole.
I also think that while we're having all this discussion about Godsent's top laner and making sure that he gets either on a comfort pick, which the Fiora and the Camille, one of them will get through this draft phase, at least for now. I also think his jungler is really important. A lot of the time, he'll give him a lot of early attention. And so having a strong jungler like a Volibear, like the Nidalee that we saw last time, one that can have high pace to the jungle, have great dueling potential, and hopefully have a strong enough early game to bridge up to champion up there into the top lane and give him something to play around and start getting him snowballed there. So I'm really looking at how they're going to shape the jungle matchup as well as the top lane matchup.
First pick is going to be interesting here too, because Volibear is left open. I was going to say that here it comes. I think it's going to be going towards the jungle. Obviously, the flex 4 top is open, but I'm pretty sure the statistic says that he's way better in the jungle right now. Frost mentioned earlier today that the trajectory the consensus in NLC right now is that he's just a great dueler in the jungle too.
And now the question will be, do Nordavind save last pick on red side for the counter pick against top lane? Because they think that that's how they're going to shut down champion and the fact that he could theoretically get one of his comfort champions. Or are they going to go all for the 5v5, the team fight, the blind picks, and have something like an Aphelios and a Azir, potentially even a Gangplank down the line?
And this is also just that they're actually hiding that support pick. They want the counter pick on the support towards that bot lane too. We've talked about it before. Nordavind likes to play toward Chris Berg here. So by taking a blind pickable champion like a Sia, it could have been Orianna too, you're still having that available for you. The thing is though, if there's no support being picked here, we can expect that champion pool to be trimmed toward the second ban phase too. Ooh. I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a fan.
Orianna. Okay.
I think it's a bit dangerous in this situation because, I mean, if you go towards a Lulu, there's obviously the threat. They can pick something like a Nautilus, apply that pressure to you, threaten in the lane. If you go the Tom Kench, then they can just answer the Lulu, and both situations they'll be fine. I think Karma does a lot for the priority in the lane, and I don't feel like she's as punishable necessarily. A Nautilus could still be problematic, but we could see a bit of an evolution here from Godsent, where C-Boy leans more towards bot lane. I think that's a critical thing. If we're seeing champion on something like the Wukong, you can give more pressure to your bot lane, because I think Hoyes and Pedersen need that attention if they're going to be playing a lane like this.
I think the idea also with the Karma pick is that you're empowering the Volibear as well to have access into the backline by using the utility that Karma is going to provide. I still feel like Godsent then kind of with this pivot, as you were talking about, Ox not going the traditional route of grabbing the Nautilus and so having backline threat, means that you are going to be trying to play at range or zone control, which is scary when you're against an Azir. Like, you will be able to outrange an Aphelios and make it dangerous for him to step forward, but if this Azir starts popping off, it almost doesn't matter because he's got the range and zone control built into one.
And now we already see the picks coming in here. Like, Fiora banned away. I mean, maybe I know what the next ban is. I'm going to predict that it's Camille. And if it is Camille, I'm just a superior analyst here. But I was going to say that I'm surprised to see if they're just going to ban away the weak side to top laners too. We talk about the GP. Because when you're just removing these threats in the Camille, in the Fiora, it's, oh, there we actually see it. There is some weak side top laners coming through. I was going to say Malphite is one of those champions that is just really annoying to lane against if you're a champion with that specific champion pool you have. So we're actually looking at a Godsent here who's looking to take away some weak side top laners for champion to shine on one of these picks.
Yeah, I'm actually, for me personally, I feel like the Fiora wouldn't have been the biggest priority. I guess they're concerned about the split push, but I feel like Godsent, it seems likely they could lean into something like the Wukong, and even the Camille serves that purpose where you have that backline access, because as Frosk was talking about, the Azir is going to have the zone control and lockdown. The range disadvantage is going to be a thing, so if you have something that can follow up with the Volley Bear, threaten that backline, you can start to take some of those team fights.
And we are actually going to be looking at someone who's going to pick a jungler here. At least that's what I think that Nordavind will be doing, and then save that last pick towards the top side. On and Malphite is out of the table. Camille still left open if they want to go for that. They could, on the side for Godsent, go for some champions like Camille. The Galio we've seen before had too, so that's the Camille Galio composition you can still opt into. Now we actually see that this Wukong can be flexed towards the jungle too, so it's not necessarily a top laner yet.
This is a very... Oh, sorry, carry on, Frosk.
No, sorry, I was going to ask you guys what your thoughts were on the Camille versus Wukong matchup. I'm not entirely well versed on it. I assume that Camille is going to win on 4, 5, and definitely 6 items, but is there a window in the lane phase that Wukong can punish? Because if you ban out Fiora and you know that that guy plays Camille, potentially also the Volley Bear, then maybe you just pick this because you think you have a favorable matchup at some item breakpoint, but I don't know the matchup well enough.
I don't know the matchup either. In theory, I think that, she's hookshotting, let me just clone. He hookshots the clone instead, something like that. But as I said, I'm not too sure about that matchup. Now, Truffle is going to be very happy about this Cockmore here. We did see it into G2 picked it, and it was the exact same matchup. This Cockmore actually is fairly well into Azir too. Azir likes to stay long range too. Cockmore likes to poke down these long range targets too. But you are looking to gain some items beforehand, before you're actually useful. I know, Frost, you think this Cockmore pick is still a bit controversial yet, but let's see how Godsent and if they can change your opinion about it.
All I'm going to say is in that G2 game, it got very fed very quickly because Razork entered it a couple of times. Now, I think the really important thing to make the Kog'Maw successful in this team composition is the zone control in front of it, because the longer you allow Kog'Maw to rain hell from the sky, the more damage it's going to do. So my eyes are actually on Volley Bear and Ashe and how they're controlling space in front of Kog'Maw here to maximize that damage output.
And I think the critical thing for the other side would be looking towards that Wukong as the backline threat. Obviously, deny it from champion's a big thing, but if you let the Kog'Maw go unchecked, the range advantage over Azir, the poke threat becomes a problem. And also, Chrisberg, as much as his power in team fights will be relevant, if he can't get into a team fight with HP, it just won't matter.
Well, we've seen some up and down performances of AP Cogmore through the leagues over the last week. I'm excited to see whether Mikma can make this work for him this time round. I'm only thinking back to the very famous Monk performance last week where we did not have the best AP Cogmore. But look, let's see if this one works out. Godsent have got a draft that maybe suits them a bit more than the sort of drafts that I've seen before. So we'll hand it over to our casters. Godsent versus Nordavind. Who will win?
Much appreciation, Excandrel. Hello and welcome back as we're getting ready to go into game number 2 between Godsent and Ericsson. I was going to ask you about top lane, but we'll get onto that in a minute. Let's have a little talk about this AP Cogmore. I know you've been excited to see it. We've been seeing it a little bit more rise up into the LEC. We had it over in the UKLC and some of the regional leagues as well in the previous week. We've had mixed success. We had the Monk performance, and
then we had the Caps
had
performance.
Eminem over in the UKLC playing it, and they had a 2-0 week on it. So I'm now sold. I wasn't sold from when I saw it on Monk, but I'm more sold now.
And I mean, at the end of the day, Caps also had the composition to play with the Kog'Maw. He had a Tam Ken's basically babysitting that mid lane. So it was kind of easy for him to perform on that. But just to stick on to this composition, I actually had a conversation with Mikma, and I turned to him and he was like, who do you think is going to win tomorrow, us or Nordavind? And I was like, well, it depends. Are you going to play Kog'Maw mid lane? He's like, well, don't out me like this. It's a secret. And that was like live on a stream. So he kind of eased me into it. I didn't believe him at the start. I didn't want to believe him, but I do now seeing this. So here's the deal, right? Usually I would say that a Kog'Maw can exert pressure when being safe. And therefore, Frost, also mentioned the fact that the Ashe and the Volley Bear need to make space for him so the Olaf and the Wukong never reach the backline and kill the Kog'Maw. Now, at this point, I know that Godsent also hovered over the Tam Kench as well, which would have been a big saving grace for them. But there's a lot of shields coming in from Pedersen, and as long as Hoy's can stay solo in the lane and allow Pedersen to roam around the mid lane to keep Migma alive and healthy, I think this has the possibility to work, yes.
So we'll keep our eyes on Pedersen, see if he can make these roams happen. Obviously, early level versus the Azir is going to be a little bit rough. We expect Ericsson to get the shove. Ericsson has been a pretty consistent player for Nordavind, and obviously in the mid lane.
I feel like
Fairly large pool. Kind of think of the Pantheon and things like this, but obviously the Azir, the pretty standard picks, really. So early, Kog'Maw is going to kind of struggle to really clear out these waves, as you can see. Once he gets a little bit more levels and gets the old slip and slide leveled up a bit more, should be able to kind of mince through these waves. Now, let's have a little talk about the top lane as well. Mummus actually got a pretty highlight-worthy escape yesterday. Not yesterday, last week on the Wukong when he got dove 2-man in topside versus
well,
Champion.
instead of 0-3, it went 0-2 because he was able to have that escape.
Hey, man. But Champion, yeah, when we were talking about this before the show, before the broadcast, you and Gulborg had very different opinions on who is your Godsent player to watch. Gulborg was a C-Boy fanboy. You were in the Champion pool. Talk to me why you feel that Champion is the kind of the player to watch for Godsent.
First of all, I feel like a lot of teams respect Champion and his pool. We have seen a lot of multiple Fiora, Camille bans. We did see the Fiora ban come out again here. I didn't think Camille was going to be a big problem because you have the Azir, you can push her out of her own ultimates, you'd be fine. And he also has a lot of other stuff, like the Jace, like the the Wukong. Sure, the Wukong didn't work that well last time, but he saw in even more aggressive champions, like the likes of the Urgot here, who can punish the Wukong early into the early phases of the game because you do a lot of damage around you. You know, Wukong wants to come close and personal, and then you deal a bunch of damage, throw him back even more, set up for C-Boy, he comes in, you kill the monkey, GG, well played. So I do like his playstyle. Now the thing is, my big question for Godsent was, if your top lane doesn't go as planned, where is your plan B? Because you've repeatedly said, Hoyes is amazing at playing weak side. Well, with the Ashe, you can't necessarily play weak side because you're extremely immobile and you can't stay alone in the... Oh!
Ericsson's getting ganked, able to shuffle away to safety.
Feed that Kog'Maw, baby. Let's go.
That is Kog'Maw. Nothing to do with Volley Bear there, all Kog'Maw.
Ooh. So he has to stay in lane to clear the wave that's just crashing in. So the Kog'Maw could actually walk in lane if he wants to.
Migma's not basing. He's actually staying.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Okay, so Migma has had a lot of questionable TPs. I don't think staying here is the thing to do because Ericsson is also rocking the teleport and he will be back in time. So Migma has to back off of this, and he might be in a very unfortunate situation where he will need his jungler mid lane to push the wave like he did now.
Okay, so there we go. Migma is gonna now go to base.
It's gonna freeze.
Must have been greeding for the tier. That's my assumption here. Yeah, that was purely a greed for the tier. Yeah, that's what he wanted. Now, obviously, the bot lane have their shove. Hoyes and Pedersen pretty much expected. You wanted to see Pedersen kind of roam around the map and kind of enable, but to me, this Ashe Karma is pretty much what we would see back when we used to have like the Karma Ezreal as well.
Oof.
Ooh.
He TP'd right in the face of Ericsson with no T on the side. That was a little bit spicy from Migma. He brings that spice that you need in the games, right? It's not all these boring back and forth games. Migma's like, I'm just gonna TP into his face, and if he wants to, he can fight me. Well, at this point, Ericsson can fight the Kog'Maw onto the Azir, and not only that, but they also get the priority through that to move into the river and grab the first objective of the game. Now, of course, taking a dragon is not the end of the world, but what that does is it puts you on a timer if you're Godsent, right? Because if Nordavind can take dragon after dragon to the point where they're on soul point, that will have to force Godsent to come out of hiding and try to fight for it. And that means whether you have the items, whether you're in a position to do it or not, you have to do it, or Nordavind will go unfought for with a soul.
We're not level 6 now, though. It's just getting shoved. Well, not shoved, but denied from the wave. Should be able to pick it up as it crashes in here. Now, the base came through for Hoyes and Pedersen. They are just looking to go straight back towards the bot side. Got a little bit before we potentially see a swap out for that Rift Herald spawn at 8 minutes. So just going to look like our bot lanes will be going back towards the bot lane for the moment as Mikma getting pretty heavily denied by Ericsson. His wave's fairly big, so he should be able to catch up in CS, providing he doesn't completely whiff the CSing here. It looks like he's not going to. But he is down to Ericsson at the moment.
It's kind of hard with the AP Kog'Maw to farm underneath your tower. Of course, now he does have the level 6, so he will be able to burn through his mana, having the T to try and clear that backline and make it a little bit easier for him not to play underneath the tower. But I would just like to see a returning gank coming in from C-Boy now that Ericsson doesn't have his flash up and available.
Did it pretty quiet top lane, though. Although I say that,
the Olaf is moving up
just
there.
goes in for the flip. It's very short trades here and there. Nolty is hanging about in the top lane. Actually, Ericsson's also moving up here, so they've got everybody coming up, and Champion has to be quite careful. Mumus got that Cyclone, and there wasn't actually any vision placed down by Godsent, so with the missing Azir, they can make assumptions, but there is a pink ward in the river for the side of Nordavind.
Thing is that the second champion moved out of that bush in the top lane, Nolty would go in as he is sticking around right now, but Godsent want to make a dive of their own.
Yeah, C-Boy's looking to go, and he does have the ultimate to turn the tower off. He needs to. Mikma's coming in as well. That's going to be the slam as C-Boy just lands on top, gets himself one. That's the second one picked up by Mikma. Chrisberg just got squashed.
Oh my god, if there was ever a slam dunk right there.
Wait, what happened up top lane?
Well, I was just saying, if Champion chooses to pull out of that bush he's sitting in right now with Nolty around, he will most likely die. I will have a wild guess that this is what happened up there.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what happened. He used his flash as well. Both summoners down now for the top laner. C-Boy's looking to see if he can make his way up towards this Rift Tail, but actually Ericsson's getting engaged on. Bebop's going to come through with the shields, and Champion's coming over that wall. That's enough to actually zone them off the Rift Tail as Champion actually continues to keep it going. As C-Boy's going to make his way over. There's that Pedersen unlock. Hoy's also roaming up though, so it should just be a pretty free Rift Tail picked up for Godsent. And Hoy's actually realizes that and just beelines back towards bot lane.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think it was a little bit of missing in CS and experience out there for Hoy's, because then he starts going up top, and then Godsent in the middle of it, they're like, well, we don't actually need you because, you know, Nordavind has actually backed, so we're not going to have a fight here, so you can start going back bot lane. Thankfully for him, he didn't miss much. He was even with respect in the CS department, and I think after clearing these 2 waves that are stuck underneath his tower, he will be ahead. So far, so good. Everything's going according to plan for Godsent. They're pulling ahead in CS. The Kog'Maw is still alive, managed to get a kill underneath his belt, which means the Seraphs will kick in much faster than usual. And also, your weak side bot laner is ahead in CS. It's a good day.
Yeah. Got that Vamp Scepter, got the Berserker's Greaves. My brain just fell apart there. Berserker's Greaves, so he has speed on both attack speed and movement speed. Lewis is going to jump in, pop that Cyclone onto Champion. Champion actually throws the ulti down. Fear Beyond Death is there, but he's not actually getting the shotgun needs procced. And Mumus actually looking to chase underneath this tower for the kill. Champion going to go down as Mumus just gets a solo kill top lane.
Oh, when the fade comes through right here, and Mumus had a very underwhelming performance on that Wukong, and old boys making up right here.
Mikma, good there. They actually get a flash on with C-Boy. Ericsson has to flash away, but the Sky Splitter shields onto C-Boy. And now the Ragnarok burning. This will be the end of days. Mikma finds a double kill in the mid lane. Godsent just with a great punish onto Nordavind there. Aaron and Nolty getting punished.
And I'm loving this, honestly. We talked about how much of attention the Kog'Maw would need to stay alive, to pull ahead, to not allow the Azir to do whatever he wants in the mid lane.
You don't get to talk. This is just fight. Looks like they are going to be able to get away. I'm sorry, Trouble. This game is not very favored to you. Every time you want to speak,
honestly, it's fine.
Godsent want to fight.
It's fine. If Godsent are making these godlike plays, it's fine. I'll never speak. I'm good with it. I think the answer here to my question is very obvious. Like, what if it doesn't go very well for Champion? Who do they play through? Well, the answer is pretty obvious here. Both Mikma, C-Boy, Hoyes, and Pedersen are all stepping up for Godsent. So even if Champion is having a little bit of a rough game, they're making up for it.
It's like Nordavind is still looking at this. They don't have the
Right
arrow
behind them.
available. Mumus is coming in with a teleport. That's going to be the ulti popped by C-Boy just to try and get away.
ult.
Boy, he's now trying to kite here, but it looks like Nordavind are just going to make their way out. Mikma teleports in late. And that'll be the second dragon picked up for Nordavind. We're looking at an Infernal Soul. Actually, very nice if it gets picked up for Mikma.
Oh, yes.
That's
it's
extra
the same
splash
for
damage
Azir.
on your ulti. Same for Azir. It's not the best
Same for
great.
Crispec onto the Aphelios. I mean, with the Infernum, it's going to hurt a bunch. It's going to be
Yeah.
AoE on top of AoE, explosion on top of explosion. So it will
I know
be
it's
a
not
lot
the
of
best Drake.
fireworks. Yeah.
I know it's not the best Drake, but some champions actually do use it fairly well.
So the thing here is, we talked about how Godsent would be pulled to fight, sell that soul point come in from Nordavind, which looks like it's getting to that point. But in this moment of time, with your Kog'Maw being ahead, with your Ashe being ahead, you know that you're most likely gonna have the items needed to take this fight. I'm actually thinking that when the next dragon comes up, Godsent will have the ability to fight that as well. They're most likely gonna have the Black Cleaver completed onto the Ergo to be able to pull him down, be a little bit more tanky. Seraphs will be very close to being completed for the Kog'Maw as well, so he stays a little bit more healthy and alive. And you will have also the Blade of the Ringing on your Ashe, which is a very nice early game spike to fight on, while the Aphelios is still not going to be close enough to the Infinity Edge yet.
Yeah, he's a long, long way away as well. Just got that BF sword as Nolty's looking for a potential dive onto Mikma. Mikma decides, you know what? I don't want to give over my shutdown. I'm 3-0, and I quite like being 3-0. So he actually backs away. May just lose a few towers, well, at least some plates, but maybe the tower. This does mean Boys can roam up towards top side. Mumus has to be a little careful. He could be on the receiving end of some attention from Godsent here.
See, that's extremely difficult for the Kog'Maw. He cannot play the side lane because he's extremely diveable. And right now, he doesn't have flash available. His Seraph is not stacked to use the shield. And Nolty, very wisely, is shadowing, his bot lane, trying to get that Kog'Maw away from the farm and zone him out of the tower. And he's returning back bot lane. Mikma could be in a lot of trouble.
That's going to be the flash, the Ragnarok. Mikma, you can't do anything. The wild growth as well to boot. The shutdown has picked up. Meanwhile, Mumus looking to drive onto Champion here. Does have the Cyclone, but Champion will scuttle away. Nordavind will pick up this tower. That's one apiece between the teams. Gold lead still 2,000 in favor of Godsent, however.
That was a very questionable swap right there for Godsent, and Nordavind are very quick to punish that. Oh,
Ericsson getting caught out. C-Boy gets the stun, and Pedersen just picks up the kill. Honestly, you are cursed this game, Trouble. Every time you open your mouth, someone gets killed.
that's all right, man. If Godsent are gonna pull an upset right here, it's fine for me to never speak in this game. I'm honestly all right with that. They seem to be making the plays. Hoyes is taking a step up right here. And he's like, every time I press this R button, someone dies. And I'm pretty sure that 3 out of 3 assists that he has, and 3 out of 3 times he's pressed this R button, it did result in a kill for Godsent. And now with Ericsson being down, they also get agency in the river. They have all the vision in the world to start contesting that.
Nolty is going to get snared up here. Hoy's very low on mana and doesn't have that arrow available, but Mikma's making his way over. Actually feels like Godsent might not be able to fight this. Mumus is coming in on the flank. They got the teleport, but the Cyclone's been used into Hoy's already. Hoy's just trying to survive through everything. C-Boy has to pop his ultimate, but Pedersen's already been taken down. Mikma coming in with the spit, trying to land the damage onto the Nordavind members, but he can't able to do so. That will be him peeling away. Champion burnt ultimate and everything. Nordavind are going to be picking up this Rift Herald.
I think they sort of underestimated how quickly Ericsson can get back because he was dead, but then he has the teleport to join straight in and jump, and because he doesn't have the cleaver yet, the call is not completed. He has to take the teleport way far away from the fight. If you see this replay, you see that Champion is coming in underneath his tower, so it takes a while for him to be that front line his team needs to, together with C-Boy, and he also doesn't have the items completed for that. So at the end of the day, he never ends up joining the fight. So you might as well stay back bot lane, try to farm, get to your cleaver, and then try to pull this fight in.
Well, this isn't a replay. We just thought we'd show you the stinger between replays. We're back onto live. It really felt like a bad time to fight. You knew you had no mana. You knew you didn't have the key ultimates you needed to kind of peel and create space for Mikma, which is what you were talking about. And he just had to run away to the wind. And now with this Infernal Drake number 3 getting started up, Bebop instantly gets caught out and taken down. Seaboy secures the kill. Now 4v5, no wild growth available to Nordavind. Mummus is going to get zoned off by Champen. Seaboy continuing to go onto this Infernal Drake. It looks like Nordavind are just going to have to give up this dragon. That's the first one over for Godsend with that pick onto Bebop.
4 out of 4 from Hoist. 4 presses of R, 4 deaths for the side of Nordavind. And sure, the Lulu here is picked for the Aphelios, to buff up the Aphelios, buff up the Azir. They both benefit from attack speed from the Ardent Sensor. But what do you do when the R hits you? When that big crystal arrow lands onto your little Yordle head, you are gonna go down, and then no one is gonna get buffed. He didn't have flash available, he didn't have heal available. They pick him out of the fight, and then Godsent's like, if you're willing to take a 4v5, we'll kill you, and then we'll take more. So great decision from Nordavind right here to pull out of this fight and not unnecessarily fight for something that they can contest later on.
Yeah, Nulti constantly hanging around this bot side here, so we do get ourselves a quick pause. But what we've been seeing quite a lot is Nulti sitting in the back pocket of his bot lane. Chrisberg has basically just been given the freest lane in the sense where he knows he's safe. He knows he has an Olaf waiting over the walls at all times. He's got that Infinity Edge. He's also now got the I will kill your turret build with a blue and red gun. And now looking to try and turn it around with the Hoist. Hoist has to try and buy some space, but Chrisberg will be able to pick him up. Mikma teleports into the middle of the fight. It's going to start throwing down a lot of these living artillery rains onto Bebop. Going to do a fair amount of damage to the Nordavind members. And Nursing there to make sure the shields are onto Mikma, but this will be the turret falling. Godsend lose another turret and their AD carry.
Yep, and Champion is all the way down bot. He's doing what we said he should have done before. Chill down there until he has the Black Cleaver and then join the fights. But because Champion doesn't have the teleport, Nordavind take great advantage of that. They put numbers advantage towards the top side, which means that Godsent have to pull away or they die. I cast the Cursed Hoist because he also died there. And then Nordavind managed to get both tier 2s, mid lane and top.
I thought Seaboy was holding away for Mikma, and Mikma walked away. I was like, what are you doing, bro? Actually, they were holding it for Hoist to make sure he got the wave. He is pretty far down to Chrisberg. Now, Chrisberg close to his Hurricane. Got the Zeal, got the double daggers. He's about 300 gold off now at this point from getting that. And uh-oh, Mikma, you just pushed out on your own. And
okay.
Mummus gets himself a killing spree. Won't die to the passive, unfortunately. Doesn't do enough damage.
A little plead right here. Please, Godsent, stop putting the poor Kog'Maw onto a sideline. The Kog'Maw needs to stay mid, he needs to be protected by wards, and he needs to be babysat. This is what he does. He's just a wave-clearing machine and a high-poking machine. It worked great in the early game. Keep doing that in the mid game because Nordavind are just going to keep on picking him apart in the side lanes.
Feels a little bit like they kind of just want to continue to play towards Hoist, but I feel like the Kog'Maw is the one they really want to funnel the golden items onto. But now Ericsson does actually take the arrow. Fear Beyond Death lands onto Chrisberg, and Seaboy jumps in with a Stormbreaker. Instantly has to flash back out though. Doesn't want to get himself caught. Mikma joins up with the rest of the team. Cyclone not quite up for Mummus though, so it looks like he's not going to quite take that dive yet.
Keep an eye on the cooldowns. All almost cooldowns available for the side of Nordavind. Godsent have expended every single one of their important cooldowns. Nordavind, though, they're going to take the chill pill here. They're going to go back. They're going to reset. They're going to purchase their items. Hurricane completed onto Chrisberg. It's on time, baby. This is where you start fighting with this champion. Death stance, ha! That's only when you play against a team that's ahead. At this point, they're even in gold. And you saw how that Aphelios is about, what, 1.5, 2k gold ahead of Hoist's Ashe? So I will agree with you. Funnel the gold into your Kog'Maw. Your Ashe is there to play sort of ground control, right? To keep away any threat.
You got one job, Hoist. Accept your fate. They are trying to
Weak bot laner, baby. Accept your fate.
Feels Hoist, man.
this is what's going to keep happening. You keep on putting your Kog'Maw onto a side lane, you shadow him or not, you're going to lose pressure on other lanes, specifically mid lane, which is so important because there's absolutely zero wave clear on the rest of the people on the side of Godsent. This is why I don't understand why can't Champion, for example, go against the Wukong at this point. Sure, you lose, but everyone loses against the Wukong at this point in a side lane. You need your Kog'Maw there to get fed with all this CS and keep on pressuring the wave.
Nordavind just have free roam here. I mean, look at the vision going down right now. Obviously, that pink ward is just being taken out, but they did have a little bit more vision before some of it timed out and got taken out. So my point almost mute, but they do have some vision into the side of Godsent's red side jungle. Look what's spawning up in 10 seconds. It will be the third Drake, and if Nordavind can get that, that will force Godsent to then fight them every time. And with that, they know that's going on. So the Sky Split already used. C-Boy launches into the team. Instantly gets Polymorph. Migma trying to fire out the damage underneath, but they are going to be able to pick him up for one. Hoyes has to flash away. Now they got the Cyclone onto Pedersen. He's trying to survive for long. Migma raining that living artillery down onto Nordavind. Now their health bars are low, but not low enough. And Godsent, once again, just bite off more than they can chew. As the dragon spawns, they lose their jungler.
And one huge criticism we've always had for Godsent is the fact that, sure, they want to play around objectives, right? They engaged that fight because they wanted to have freedom in the bot side river to take the Infernal uncontested. But we've also talked about the fact that their wave management is very lackluster, that they don't know how to set up fights for these objectives, and they end up falling victims to their own plans. And this is exactly what happened with C-Boy. Migma is constantly on a side lane trying to chase the CS instead of leaving him alone in the mid lane and then having him there whenever it is needed. And this is exactly what happened there. Migma is literally a 100-meter athlete right here, running from lane to lane to lane. He's literally so tired. He's like... He could be playing the dog skin right now. This is how tired he is of running from side lane to side lane, picking up CS. And he's so late to this fight. And I'm not sure if it's miscommunication with Migma saying, listen, I want to greed, I need the death cap before we fight. Let the third Infernal go, let the third Dragon go, and we fight for soul when I have my death cap up and available. And C-Boy's like, no, I want to fight now. But the now was a 4v5 that Nordavind very well capitalized on.
You can see, because of Migma's kind of constant running around, he's down a level over Ericsson. Normally, when I've been seeing Kog'Maws be successful, we did see it for M&M Academy over in the UKLC. They were funneling everything onto the Kog'Maw, and he was often up 3-4 levels over everyone else in the game, just because of the amount of resources they were funneling into the Kog'Maw. This hasn't been the case here. He's got that death cap in the making, so he's going to do a lot of damage, but hasn't got the Crystal Scepter for the additional slows. Migma is not the one who is kind of getting the resources I think he needs to carry this game on the Kog'Maw.
And this goes back to, you know, the fundamental understanding of what your win conditions are for Godsent. At this point, Ashe has the Hurricane and she has the Blade of the Reaping. Great. What are you chasing? What are you greeding for? It's that juicy death cap. It's for that Kog'Maw to be chunking away people every time the R and the E lands on that champion, and they're just not giving him up. He's scraping the side lanes. He's waiting. No, stop boys from farming at this point and give Kog'Maw pretty much everything, because if anyone pulls out Godsent from the hole they've dug themselves in right now, I think it's going to be the Kog'Maw.
Now, Nordavind are leaning towards this Baron. They know they can't actually do it with the Kog'Maw alive, standing in that pit. With the level 13 Kog'Maw obviously having 2 points into his living artillery means he has a fair amount of range on that ability. And if they start out the magic resist shred coming down and the Kog'Maw just raining the artillery, now he's got that death cap, it is going to hurt. So Nordavind know they can't do that. I'd like to see a Crystal Scepter come out from Migma next to make sure that he can continually chain the living artillery.
I mean, at this point, this is what you have Hoyes there for, right? You've got C-Boy to go in and be your mid-shield, basically, and you've got Hoyes sort of zoning everyone with the arrows and the AoE, sort of stopping everyone from coming anywhere near you if you're the Kog'Maw. So technically, it can work. I think it's the execution that's been lackluster so far. Godsent need to realize, okay, let's use our Kog'Maw to poke people down first, and then we can push for an engage on the Volibear. And mind you, if the arrow doesn't hit from Poise, there is no hard engage on them to follow up on.
Mikma actually just went top side to go catch a wave.
Oh, man.
He's going to make his way back, and Seaboy and Berserson are going to hold mid lane for the moment. Champion off in the bot side, got his teleport available.
Oh my god, look at Mumus. He's denying so much CS. He knows that on the other side of this phone line, it is a very thirsty Kog'Maw needing all that CS. And Mumus is like, yeah, I'll just wait here. He's gonna lose everything. 1.5 wave has died from Mumus freezing that, because Mumus doesn't need to be anywhere else on the map. He's farming himself up. They're waiting for the next objective, which is coming in a minute, and it is gonna be the Infernal Soul. And they can just chill right now. And Kog'Maw has gotten nothing of these 2 incoming waves.
Kog'Maw did go bot lane to go catch that wave. Instead, they realized he will get absolutely minced if he steps up. You can see the gold graph on your screens right now. 3k up to the side of Nordavind at the moment. Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, Hurricane onto Chrisberg. He is pretty much enabled at this point when you've got the Ardent Sensor onto the Lulu, just to make sure Chrisberg is going to stay alive, and he's going to do some fat damage. Like you said, the Infernal Soul spawning up in now 20 seconds time, and
at this point, Godsent is trying to get some priority, push the wave mid lane to try and get some vision in the bot side river, because they cannot allow Nordavind to get Infernal with an Aphelios and Azir. It's going to hurt tremendously in the next fights to come, and maybe they won't be able to fight them at all if that Infernal Soul goes down.
Godsent need to fight this now. If they lose Infernal Soul, it's going to feel really, really rough. Seaboy trying to jump forward there, but unable to do so. Mumus is being zoned away by Champion. 2,600 health onto the Infernal Soul. Seaboy just going to launch him with the ultimate. He's able to steal away the dragon. Seaboy now doing his best to try and get away. The polymorph's on. He flashes away, but Chrisberg's able to secure the kill. In comes Mumus with the Cyclone. The knockups for days. The Moonlight Vigil spreads. And Nordavind just walk through Godsend. A double kill onto Ericsson. A double kill onto Chrisberg. And everyone but Mikma dies.
And both the carries are so fed right now that Nordavind's like, fine, you can deny us the soul, but you cannot deny us the full kills. They take everything off of Godsent. They allow them to have the Drake, and they take their mid lane, and they could potentially be looking down to finish the game here.
I think this is game. I don't think Mikma has the damage. He gets shuffled back, goes for the flash. The tower's going to go down. The Nexus has been left exposed as Nordavind summoning Seaboy. They do find themselves a shutdown, but Ericsson firing away. 28 minutes on the clock, and Nordavind get the win.
And we had a little talk with Nordavind, right? They said that we're going to play text, but we're going to play comfort. We're going to put everyone on the champions that they like to play and feel comfortable on. And that showed. They didn't sweat at all. Saw some hiccups here and there, you know, Ericsson dying mid lane, but overall it was very leveled and steady. Top lane was winning, bot lane was going even, but it's an Aphelios. It's going to outscale the Ashe later into the game. And I felt like, again, the decision making kind of killed Godsent. Putting the Kog'Maw onto your side lane, Mikma dying multiple times trying to get that CS, and it just never snowballed. And even though I gave props to them for sort of shadowing that Kog'Maw, keeping him alive in the early game, that gave them so much control over the map, they kind of screwed that over towards the end and just stopped doing it.
We aired our frustrations with Mikma playing side lane Kog'Maw and not just kind of getting enough resources put into him, and it showed it there. Over in the NLC, we've had 0-2 on the Kog'Maw mid, so I know it works. I've seen it work, but I feel like that game was not how you do it. So unfortunately for them, that is going to be the game for Godsend, and Nordavind are able to get themselves a win. It was pretty well played. They got a good read on the map, and Mumus actually had a really good lane versus Champion. Now, we are going to let the desk break that down a little bit more. So before that, we are going to cut to a quick break. So we'll be back after this break with more League of Legends action.
Take me away. Take me away from here. Take me away from here. Take me away. 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 Take me away from here. 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 Take me away. Take me away from here. Take me away. Take me away from here. Take me away. Take me away from here. Take me away, away, away. Take me away from here, from here. The music takes me places that I never dreamed that I would go, and how it touches me, touches me, touches me. The music takes me places that I never dreamed that I would go, and how it touches me, touches me, touches me. The music takes me places that I never dreamed that I would go, and how it touches me, touches me, touches me. Lift me up, lift me up.
All right, no surprises. Nordavind did take the win. There was definitely some life, though, but Nordavind changed things up, and I think that was the most striking thing about this game. Very early on, they were kind of like putting some focus top towards Mummus. You know, they were trying to play the dominate champion game, whereas on the other side, they flipped down their focus to bot.
Yeah, and I think what was interesting there was the fact that we talked so much about the potential top lane punish, the champion. Well, I specifically talked about it, but I said the alternative is maybe put some resource towards the bot lane, and they opted to do that. They opted to put some pressure on mid, C-Boy with a good counter gank here, and it really set up the early moments of this game in a favorable space for Godsent. I think Nulty was ultimately a little bit inefficient with his pathing, and that made him fall behind in the jungle matchup. But ultimately, it wasn't enough because Nordavind found that momentum, and I have to praise Mummus this game. I criticized him coming into this. I said maybe Champion can find an advantage here, but Mummus was stellar in lane, and in the team fights, he was the big factor that really challenged this backline of Godsent.
Yeah, and to me, we're still lacking with Godsent here in the mid to late game, but they actually had a pretty good early game, I'd say, here. Especially C-Boy came in clutch in these. Not only his pathing got the double scuttle in the early game, a substantial lead against NLC, but he was also just shining, being there for his laners, getting the lead on Migma in the early game, even getting the first turret in mid lane with all plates 10 or 11 minutes into the game. But in the end, it was just not enough. The solo lane or bot lane for Nordavind was just substantially better, especially in the late game team fights.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of that was composition. Godsent, like, obviously had some counters pulling out the Kog'Maw into the Azir, but ultimately, like, that team fight just demonstrates if you don't have a front line, your Kog'Maw doesn't really get to do anything. And so while he did get snowballed ahead, Goldberg, you just talked about, you know, he got, I think it was 3-0 at one point. He got all of those plates in the mid lane. He was so far ahead of the clock. But your cannon takes time to prep, and at the time that they were winding up, setting up, lining up the shot, they just got rolled over. So I think huge credit to Nordavind in terms of drafting the easier to execute composition. And if I'm Nordavind's coach and I'm looking at my strong mid laner and my ADC, I'm gonna do the same thing every single time. You're playing Orianna or Azir every game. You're playing team fight ADC. I think it was the Misfortune previously, now it's the Aphelios every single game. And I'm just relying that I have the better players in these carry positions to constantly win out on the map.
And I think it's something that's working really well for Nordavind, but I think Godsent just aren't quite there. Obviously, this was a big shakeup, more attention bot lane, more attention mid, set them up to be carries, but I think it's still that mid game where they're sort of lacking, because we needed a slower setup on the objectives, get the vision down, play it slow, don't let the engage come in, and allow to get the poke down from this Kog'Maw and play the zone control game. I think they got a little bit overzealous in that situation, try to press too far forwards, and allowed Nordavind to really come back in with the team fights. But I have to say, I'm still feeling more positive about the direction Godsent's going. It feels like they've grown as a team.
Yeah, I think if Godsent are going to go back to the tapes on this one and kind of develop or learn into the next week, they're looking at lane assignments, because it felt like as soon as they broke that mid lane tower and they had this really powerful Kog'Maw, they didn't necessarily know where to put him on the map. You saw him out into the side lane, he actually got picked off. The 5v5s were really scary for him because they never got true vision control over an area, and I think it's just kind of going back to basics. If we know that we can play this AP Kog'Maw, you need to recognize that as soon as he does get fed, you need to prioritize into your vision, and you need to slowly move him around the map, instead of just dumping him like you would in Azir into a side lane.
Well, I've actually got a member of Nordavind standing by, and believe it or not, it's not Ericsson. I've got Bebop Bully ready to chat to me. Hey, how you doing, mate?
Yo, what up?
So, you guys are 4-1 now. Nordavind are suddenly looking like a real top 4 contender. So, the question to me, from me to you is, do you guys feel like a top 4 team in the NLC? And do you think you can effectively challenge the likes of XL and Fnatic and potentially even take games off them?
Yeah, I think from the start of the season, we've always seen ourselves as the top contender to the academies. We think, sure, you have a bit more names, maybe. That's why people saw Riddle and Monster as the teams above us. But already we've shown that Riddle, we beat them. And I think it was more on us rather than them, for sure. And I think against XL, we kind of had one huge mistake in the game, which we have worked a lot on from like that point now, that we're really confident going into the second round robin to like get those crucial wins, especially over XL, because we're most likely going to be tied up with them now as 4-1. But it's all about taking that top spot, you know?
Of course, and I think I'm really getting the vibe from you guys that you feel confident and you're looking for that top seed coming out of your group, which is fantastic to hear. You heard the analysts talking a little bit about your playstyle, your team's playstyle, and what they think your strengths are. They were specifically looking at your team fights. Do you think that's one of the major strengths of Nordavind? I mean, you've got the likes of Crisperg, right, who's obviously known as being an incredible team fight AD carry. Do you think that team fights are really like one of the core strengths of your team?
I think especially with what we've worked on now, which is previously we worked a lot on objectives setting up prior to them, but now we're doing a lot on what we're actually doing at the objectives. Especially with our plans, our setup, we're always like trying to be on point. Where do we turn? Where do we smash these kids, you know? And I think that just makes us so good, you know? That's being on the same page as a team in a crucial team fight, knowing the tools you have. It's just so crucial. And I think I always try to be that guy that buffs up my team. So I'm playing a lot of stuff that could help CRISPR out. Like I think Lulu is really broken at doing this. I think Tom Kench is like, I've been always playing these kind of better champs, you know, like Lulu, Braum, Tam, but I think it's for a specific reason, which is to allow my AD carry to excel, you know.
Well, I mean, Chris Becker's looked really good, and I think in a small part due to how well you've played alongside him, obviously. Obviously now there is the goal beyond the NLC, which is the European Masters. Are you looking towards the European Masters already? Are you just keep taking it a game at a time right now?
Well, since prior to the split, we got the disappointing announcement that Nordic only gets, or NLC only gets 2 spots at the European Masters. We for sure would think there would be 3, right? But there isn't. There's only 2, and you have 2 academy teams who are people always look towards them, right? So now it's about the teams who can challenge that spot. I think for sure we are up to challenge that, and we want to take that trophy. We want to get to EU Masters. That's always been the goal. That's always going to be the goal. And I think we for sure can contend. We're putting on like the same level of commitment as the academy do. For practice, for daily routines, all that shit. And that's, you know, that's gonna put us to match them. We're matching them in everything that needs to be matched outside of the game. So why can't we match them inside the game, you know?
Absolutely, mate. It's a great mentality to have, and really, really sort of refreshing to hear that as well. I really hope that Nordavind do live up to those expectations, because you've been a pleasure to watch so far, mate. So thank you so much for joining me on the interview, and I guess we'll get to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you a lot, X300.
No worries, mate. Okay, before we head to a break, we have another carefully procured play of the game. So let's have a look which one was chosen this time round, and I'll let my analysts talk it through.
I have a feeling I know which one it is.
Yeah, and obviously a big factor in this game was the team fights, and that's what I wanted to focus on here. We can obviously see the setup here for the Infernal Soul, and C-Boy manages to steal it away. But ultimately, losing your front line in this situation just means the rest of the team is threatened. Mummus goes forward with a beautiful engage, and then it's CRISPR here getting the ult, the AoE's there. And this is what happens. If Godsent can't have a structured fight where their backline can sit back, they can play zone control, it's very easy for Nordavind to just run them over. And ultimately, they were too tunneled on denying the soul and ended up losing the fight afterwards.
Absolutely. Look, that was a great game from Nordavind. I think, again, going from strength to strength, the team that I do genuinely believe will be able to contest the likes of Exxon and Fnatic the further that we go down the NLC. But we have another game coming your way. After the break, we're going to be diving into one of those academy teams, XL versus ENCE. We'll see you soon.